I thought I was guarding wealthy families until I realized why they never went out at night. So, this story was sent to me by a follower named Adam, and he says he believes he unknowingly became the bodyguard to a family of werewolves. So, he said after getting out of the military, he got picked up by one of those alphabet agencies, and the kind he can't even really talk about or name, did a few years there, and then transitioned into the private sector of more high end security. Well, it was more like high paying contracts, international work, and eventually he gets an offer in Spain. And it was for some elite family, old money family that ran generations deep. And his job was pretty much just being a daytime bodyguard. And he didn't really look at it as a red flag, but he found it odd at first. And a lot of guys that he worked with were actually working there. And he said that it paid far more than anything he had ever made, but the rules were extremely strict. And it was never be on the property after sunset, never ask about the lower levels of the estate, and no matter what you hear, if you're there at night, don't ever come back and just ignore it. And at first he thought it was just some like, eccentric rich people type of crap, but the estate was massive, he said, and it was old stone architecture, and parts of it looked like it had been there for centuries, and it was just really, really distant and far off. And he said the weirdest part was their schedule. The family never ever came outside during the day, not once at all. And he even joked that he thought maybe they were vampires. And everything was handled through staff, security feeds, or a brief controlled interaction indoors between him and the family. And he always noticed that when that did happen, the curtains were drawn. Then one afternoon, he saw something that he feels he truly wasn't supposed to. And one of the younger members of the family stepped into the strip of sunlight that was actually coming through a window. And he said they froze. Not like it like hurt them like a vampire or anything like that, but it was almost as if they were afraid of it. And Adam said that the kid slowly backed away, like the light was dangerous or it was going to make him explode. And the kid took off running. And that's when he said he started to pay attention a little bit more to the family's story. Deliveries only came at dusk, security rotated out just before dark, and every single night, right after sunset, the entire estate would go completely dead silent. There were no lights, no movement, just, he said it was so dark you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face. Until one night, he ended up staying a little too long. He got caught up on some work, he said. And he said he broke the number one rule. And he said he finally saw what the family really was. And Adam said that night that he stayed late, it wasn't on purpose. It was a delay, it was a miscommunication, he said, and it was something small between him and one of the other security guards. And by the time that he realized it, the sun had already gone down and the gates were locked. And at first, nothing happened. It was just typical dark, silent, woody area. But he said the air was really, really heavy, and he said it felt like as if he was being watched. And then he heard it. It wasn't a howl, it was something far deeper, and it was guttural. And he said it was getting closer the more that it happened. And he said the breathing was something unnatural, like it was way too large, and it was slow, the breathing, like it was methodical. And he moved toward the main part of the building, and he was trying to stay calm, trying to rationalize it. I mean, this is a guy that's been in war zones we couldn't even imagine, and thinking maybe it was wild dogs or something, but it wasn't. All the doors were shut, and he swears that they were closed before, but from inside. And he started hearing movement inside, and it was heavy, slow footsteps, and it wasn't just one, it was more. And they weren't really walking. He said it sounded like when dogs pace and circle. And he said every instinct from the military had kicked in all at once. And, you are not the top of the food chain here, he realized. And then something stepped in between the doorway. And it wasn't completely full, it was just enough for him to get a look. It was so tall, and it was bent in a way that a person really can't bend. And he said its eyes reflected in the light coming from the moon that was shining inside the house. And it wasn't outside, he was inside, and then this thing, whatever it was, spoke to him. And he said it wasn't words, but it was something that sounded like it was trying to remember almost like how to speak. And he said at that moment he just took off running. He didn't even look back, he didn't stop. He said he doesn't even remember how he got out. just that the gates were suddenly open when he did reach them again. And remember, they were closed when he was there last time. And it was almost like they let him leave, he said. He quit the next morning, didn't argue, didn't ask any questions. But before he left, one of the older members of the family actually met him. And they looked completely normal. They were calm. And one of them told him that they appreciated his discretion. And most don't get the opportunity or the chance to choose it. Adam says he's seen things in the military, things that he still can't explain, but nothing terrified him more than realizing those weren't security rules set in place for no reason. They were warnings. And the only reason he's still here is because something in that house that night decided that he was worth letting go. Whether they've realized or they felt that he was a good asset or a good employee, or they realized that it was truly an accident why he was there. But he says that that was the night he realized that he was the bodyguard to an elite family of werewolf bloodline.